Topsoil screening can be a great source of income, especially if you're transporting soil away from the site or have access to free soil to screen. You're essentially making money from dirt. In this video, we're going to go through some of the screener options out there and which ones might be right for topsoil. We'll also give you an idea of budget and output to help you decide what screener might be right for you if you're trying to get into screening topsoil. Let's get started. In case you aren't too familiar with topsoil, the clue is in the name. It's the soil that usually makes up the top 2 to 12 inches of the ground, depending on the area. It's full of broken down organic material from leaves, dead animals and vegetation, and makes a huge difference to how plants grow because it's full of nutrients. It also means it's much darker in colour than other types of soil. Other than this organic soil material, topsoil is also made up of a mix of rocks, water, contaminants, and other organic materials like plant roots, sticks and weeds. In its raw state like this, it isn't very useful because these rocks and sticks will hold back the roots of new plants growing and can restrict water flow, so it's mostly just used for landfill. But if topsoil is screened to remove larger rocks and things like sticks or roots, it can be very useful for gardening and other applications where plant growth is promoted. It's also worth a lot more money once it's been screened, which is exactly what we're interested in. Generally speaking, the finer the product, the more expensive it is. Now there are a bunch of different screens out there, but for topsoil screening, we're only interested in screens that can output a 1/2 inch size or a 10mm or around that area of product. Once we break it down into the machines that can screen down to this size, you're left with 5 categories: fine screens, scalping screens, trommel screens, screening boxes, and screening buckets. What machine you choose from here will depend on a few different things, like how much you want to screen, whether you need a machine that's going to be easy to transport or store, and how much you want to spend. Before looking at screeners, you should try to estimate how much time you want to spend screening, because there's no point in buying a screener that can screen more than you're going to do or that isn't capable of taking the load that you want to screen. You'll also need to consider the supply and demand of topsoil in your area. Chances are you don't have an unlimited amount of soil to screen, and even if you do, you need to make sure that there are enough people around you that want to buy screened topsoil. Once you've figured out how much time you want to spend screening or how much material you want to output, you can then start to look at the different screener types and specific models. We go into a lot more detail on tonnage per hour in our post on screening topsoil, which I'll link in the description. But roughly speaking, excavator buckets and screen boxes will do sub 50 tons an hour. Anything over that, you're going to need a larger dedicated screening machine. If you already have an excavator, a screening bucket might be a great option. There are some fairly cheap options like this Italden GV1000 that can be used on a site to sort material into 2 products pretty quickly. This also reduces the need to transport material to and from a job and can repurpose it on the site. Screen boxes like the RoboTrack or Portafill MR2 are also a great option where you want to process more material but budget is still a limiting factor. Once you go over that 50 ton an hour mark, you won't be able to use a screening box or a screening bucket and will need to invest in a much larger screening machine. Larger units will significantly up the amount of topsoil screening you can do and have the potential to make a lot of money per hour, but they also cost a lot more up front, getting into the hundreds of Ks or even sometimes over $1 million. One of the nice things about buying a larger screen is that there's usually a lot of demand for them. So if you want, you can rent it out to recoup some of the cost of financing the machine. When looking at larger screening plants for topsoil screening, we usually recommend a fine screen or a scalping screen. Scalping screens are very versatile machines and can handle a range of materials, from demolition waste to fine topsoil. They work on a decline and can be set up to intake or output a variety of material sizes depending on what you need. They can't make a super fine topsoil product, but if you want to use your screener for a range of jobs or want to rent it out, they're hard to pass. As the name suggests, fine screens make a finer product. They work with a screening deck that is on an incline, generally producing a product that's smaller than a 1/4 inch. But it's also worth noting that you can't dump large rocks or stone into these machines, as they will likely damage the fine meshes in them. If you're looking to invest in some new equipment to start screening topsoil, Machinery Partner is always here to provide free and unbiased advice on what machine is right for you. We have over 15 years of experience in crushing and screening, and no allegiances to one manufacturer or product, so we always put your needs first. Give us a call or send us an email and we'll be more than happy to help you start your journey into topsoil screening. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.